Careers with Hannah Becker. I'm your host, Hannah, and today's conversation promises to be an insightful one with Jeremy Becker, our guest. So whether you're joining us for the first time or you're a regular listener, we're so glad that you're here. We're thrilled to welcome Jeremy. He's a retired U.S. Army officer, a combat veteran, and CEO of Becker Digital. Becker Digital is a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business that provides consulting, management, and training services to government agencies and nonprofit organizations. So focus areas include cyber, public administration, healthcare, law enforcement, social services, and veteran programs. And the reason Jeremy is on the show today is that Jeremy and I have been in business together and married for 10 years. So been in business 10 years, married a little longer. And I wanted to have him on the show to share his insights on being married to your business partner. So we're going to get started today with the first question, or the most popular question that Jeremy and I get asked by folks when they find out that we're married to our business partner. So how do you work with your spouse?
Well, thanks, Hannah. Glad to be here discussing our partnership together on your podcast. And yeah, that is the number one question I think we get asked whenever they find out that we are in business together as spouses. And yeah, so how do we work together, or how do you work with your spouse? Well, I like to just straight out of the gate say I work very well with my spouse. So I think it's a very good partnership, and basically taking a roles-based approach to the kind of the division of labor there is very good for us. So in other words, I'm the CEO, so, and Hannah's the VP, so we can divide it up. She's got her areas she leads, and I've got mine. And even in the personal side, we can kind of divvy up our various roles and responsibilities and kind of work very synergistically together there. So over and all, it's a great thing, and I think we work together very well.
A lot of people are shocked to find out that we're actually married when they meet us out at professional events and organizations. As far as they view us as both kind of two leadership level members of the company. I always get a lot of kind of shock response from folks when they're like, how in the heck do you work with your spouse, which I think is kind of funny, and also a testament to how rare it is in today's world. They often imply that they couldn't work with their spouse, which my response is, why would you marry someone you wouldn't or couldn't go into business with? It seems like the criteria there must be kind of low. But that's not mainstream. So Jeremy, a lot of people would think working with their spouse is super challenging. Mm-hmm. What challenges do you encounter? What challenges, can you outline for listeners kind of challenges we've encountered, and how you navigate those or how you approach those?
Yeah, well, challenges, one of the number one challenges I think is that there seems to be a lesser amount of husband and wife business teams, whether nowadays and perhaps there were years back. The spouse business partnership kind of thing. So we both have grandparents that were husband and wife teams that had family business. I think Hannah even had great grandparents, and it's like, so it's kind of the mom and pop shop approach, what we used to call it growing up. And so does seem to be a little less common than it was once. So that can be challenging, where so many interactions, professional interactions at events or among business people, it's like, oh, you work together, and it almost seems like a shock, like they've never heard of that before. So it's like, well, yeah, no, I mean, we grew up with it. So but yeah, that can be, we'll always have an answer for that.
Yeah, it's definitely not mainstream anymore. Thinking back just kind of over the past few years of going to government contracting events where it used to be dominated by specifically these veteran-owned
Hmm.
family small businesses. That whole sector, we haven't run into a single other couple that's in business together in like 3 years.
It's been a
Even,
while. Yeah.
yeah, 10 years ago, we would come across people that are just like us in that
Hmm.
sense, married and business together. But yeah, it's definitely a declining thing. So what was one of the biggest surprises that you had going into business with your spouse or working with your spouse?
Well, as if I go back to my teenage years or in college when I was first thinking about joining the army or working in industry or something, and you told me I was fast forward a few years and it'd be in a entrepreneurship, small business partnership with my spouse, I might have kind of laughed. But I have. It was kind of surprising how much I like it. How much I find it very meaningful, fulfilling, and I guess you could say efficient. I mean, we have so many of our goals, whether personal and professional, can kind of work together very well there. So, honestly, that's very surprising. But actually, how efficient, easy, and effective it is to work together.
Yeah, we definitely pull in the same direction, kind of
Yeah.
towards the biggest overall goal. I like how you described it kind of in the concept of roles, because it's like you have your lane, I have my lane, but we're headed in the same direction.
Hmm.
For the listeners, before I partnered with Jeremy, I was partnered with folks I was not married with or married to. So if you look at like, if you Google, like, should I go into business with my spouse? Conventional wisdom is, don't mix family and business together. I
Hmm.
think it's interesting because my partnerships with folks I was not married to, I encountered a ton of friction. We were not taking the companies in the same direction at all. Like on the surface, it seemed like we were, but when it come down to like kind of how it mattered, how we developed our business, what new business we developed, what funding we took or didn't take, there was we were just moving in total different directions. So we haven't, between you and me, the past 10 years, that's not been a point of friction with
No.
the partnership. So that's been great on my end. Um, can you give our listeners some more insight into the dynamic or maybe like the differences between our professional and personal relationship, or how that might be different from them, if they are married to their business partner, maybe some guidelines for maintaining, differences between your professional and your personal relationships?
Yeah, well, sure. I yeah, I we mentioned earlier the roles based kind of a approach that I find what we find so helpful. I mean, as far as other things, is having an intention in any interaction or specific task in your life, whether this is a professional task that has to be done, whether it's a board meeting or a strategy session or something that's operational that just has to get done, right? So that we it's intention we we're intentionally being our professional selves there. Personal stuff we'll have to discuss later, right? So and then that also has some time elements. So, it's nice to have sometimes with entrepreneurship, and if you read about it or discuss, it's like, oh, 24/7, kind of this crying baby kind of a thing that's got to always be, fed and think, well, I mean, which while demanding, I won't say, entrepreneurship isn't demanding, but you can definitely, like any other leadership role, you can bring structure to it, right? So you can have some intention over how your time is spent, and then your overall goals, aligning them to get the personal and the professional goals lining up is very important. And you kind of have to. I find it very healthy to identify your goals. To identify your goals together. If you're married to someone, you want to know what their goals are, professional and personal. So it gives us a chance to us personally, I think it gives us a chance to come together and discuss those in multiple different lights, and you get to really know your partner as a person, and you know, really learn to appreciate their professional capabilities.
Yeah, those are great points. Jeremy's really good about prioritizing both our professional and personal commitments and relationships. That's one area that I have learned from him to do. I tend to only prioritize the professional. He'll make a point to plan as many work-related events and conferences as we do kind of investing in our personal relationships. So whether that's, a hobby, a getaway, a hike, making sure those things have kind of weight to them in terms of priority. Whereas for me, that's just not always on the kind of the front of my mind. So that makes a big difference, I think, kind of working together.
Mhm.
So what sparked your interest in entrepreneurship? Was there a specific event, an experience, a person? How did you get from, Army officer to CEO of a government contract company?
Well, there could be a little bit of when you talk about event or person, maybe there's a little bit of both. So I mean, I grew up in kind of an entrepreneur family, and multiple generations there, and the approach you know was to find new ways to do things, and I take on a challenge and be successful in not afraid to to kind of engage the world in that direction. So I kind of grew up with that. A lot of friends and family friends, and positive influences in my life with that. Entrepreneur or had those interests as well. So there was some of that. And then specifically the events. Yeah, when I retired from the Army, and as a service disabled veteran, there were some I couldn't, due to some injuries there related to that. It became more conducive for me to look into self-employment. Sometimes I couldn't just go up and take a job in whatever, wherever. So then it was kind of like, well, self-employment offered me opportunities there that I could have in that direction. So it was kind of a little bit of both, as far as the personal influence, inspirations, and then the actual event there that prompted that.
So Jeremy is third generation entrepreneur and mom and pop shop, meaning three generations of folks going into business with their spouse.
Yes.
So can you tell us, is there any key example or, specific couple that you saw and were inspired by related to entrepreneurship?
Well, I mean, my grandparents, they were one. They owned a marketing company, so they also in my specific family, and I won't talk about your family as much, but my family experience, they very entrepreneurial, but they don't hand it on. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you go start your own thing, right? So it's very bootstrapping kind of approach to life, and so they'll invest in the skills. They'll teach you, it's like encourage you to develop yourself, to learn how to do it, but there's no you have to do it yourself, right? So there's a high level of responsibility around that. So yeah, my grandparents, grandmother, grandfather, they ran a very, very successful marketing company, and they were all saw that model, and then my father took his own spin on entrepreneurship, and again, it was just don't be afraid to go out and try it. This is things that work, things that don't work. Here's where you can go find how to get it done, and it's all about bottom line, did it work or not? So yeah.
So you've been in family business for 10 years, married to your business partner.
Mhm.
Have your views on family business changed at all? Are there any misconceptions that you proved wrong, or anything there about being married to your business partner?
Yeah, well, I would say a common misconception is that you hear often that it can't be done. I don't know, or shouldn't be done, but specifically it can't be done. It's like, well, we did do it. Now we saw it modeled, I mean, in both our families, right? It was done. I mean, so it's like, well, um, we'll try to do it ourselves. And as you go into it and make your own decisions and try it for yourself, you can kind of make that assessment for yourself. So over the past 10 years, I would just I would just say that it is very positive views on family business. So I think it's a great for our country, great for our economy and community.
So specific with veteran-owned small businesses, that is a demographic in America that is in rapid decline. Specific to post 9/11 veterans, just like yourself, Iraq, Afghanistan veterans. A lot of when we started out, everyone was telling us, don't even bother. You won't be able, to do this. This is a government contracting is a space dominated by Lockheed Martin, Booz Allen, all these big companies. So can you tell the listeners kind of, you entered this very difficult space. We stepped up to the plate on this area, this sector of government contracting. Very few veterans like yourself are engaging or succeeding in this space currently. What's like the biggest obstacle, you came across with entrepreneurship? How did you overcome it? Can you give us some insight there?
Well, every journey has its hurdles. If and if you're going to anything worthwhile, lots of things worthwhile pursuing are can be challenging. So but for us specifically is I think the breaking in part, like you mentioned, it was like there's so many barriers to entry, and it's like, oh, only the bigs, the massive Northrop Grumman types can have any chance of making any money on this. And basically the small guys, I mean, there's no way, right? So, I mean, it did take several years of submitting proposals before we won one. I mean, it is just like sticking with it, right? A little dedication, right? And that's where I think, we were able to, tackle that together very well, very effectively, obviously in a way that won a very positive outcome to all that. So, yeah, but yeah, it definitely was a hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, well, the proof is kind of in the pudding at this point in this
Yeah.
stage, both with working with your spouse and then also with the company with our contract awards.
That's
So
right.
looking back, what stands out as one of kind of the most or one of the more rewarding experiences of this self-employed journey?
Well, having that win with your partner, especially if if that partner is your spouse, I mean, it is like so many levels of we did this together, right? So winning, we went through this journey together. And then also, once you win, it's doing that good job, right? And so, for instance, like it's very meaningful to do work with the VA, right? So we went through, together as a military family, we were involved in that firsthand on and then found some areas that could use some improvement, and that kind of shaped our entrepreneurial journey as well, to win some way to pursue business in a way that we could actually kind of address some of those shortfalls. So not only did we go through the entrepreneurial journey together and the veteran journey together, we were able to win and do a really good job there and in supporting the VA. So that's all very rewarding.
Yeah, it feels great to make a difference, especially when we know firsthand what it's like to not have quality services being delivered. So how do you stay motivated as an entrepreneur?
Well, for me personally, it gives a great sense of purpose, and um, and then also, being on this journey with, you, my partner and spouse, and it's like it's very inspirational to me to be on this dream, right? And that we actually put into practice. And we actually achieve benchmarks. We actually make it work, and then it affects us, I think, in many positive ways. So that, to me, is very motivational. And it's like I get up in the morning and I'm like, I really look forward to another day in the life there, right?
So we hear a lot from people today about how the American dream is dead. You can't make it in self-employment. If you want a nice life, a nice house, nice family, you go and get, the right job. But the concept of entrepreneurship
Mhm.
being a key component of the American dream, kind of attainment, people think, it's not very popular right now. People don't seem to link, like how you and I did, link self-employment to kind of achieving our economic goals that we were looking for as we charted our career. So what are your thoughts on all of that in 2025?
Yeah, well, I agree with you. There is a lot, and I've heard discussions as well or read about it. It's like, oh, the American dream is dead, and um, I mean, I personally, from where I sit, I disagree with that. So I will just emphatically say, I don't believe that the American dream is dead. I think American dream for me is, a chance to pursue happiness, right? It's a chance to just a chance to make a better life for yourself, right? To serve my country, my community, all these things which I have done and intend to continue doing, right? So, I mean, I guess it. uh, Yeah, I would just say I disagree with that notion that the American dream is dead. So for me, it hasn't been.
So, what career advice do you have for veterans interested in this career path? So, interested in government contracting, self employment, supporting the nation as a vendor.
Well, I would say that self-development, learn all you can, build a network. By that, I don't mean just, get a group of people who, talk about it. It's like people who are actually building businesses. They're actually in business. I mean, it's not, yeah. So I would say do that. Go to the source of information you need to learn, whether that's some the SBA, for instance, and actually learn what you need to do to win a contract. Learn about writing proposals. And I know that's like that's a lot. Just how do you write a proposal? What is included? And I mean, don't give up hope. So, I mean, it will be a long journey, and I mean, temper your expectations. Maybe it will be everything, but it won't be everything tomorrow, right? It is very sequential. It's very like a long journey that's worthwhile, and it gets better every step of the way. So,
Yeah, that's great perspective, Jeremy. Um, I always think it's kind of funny. This is like a little party trick that I do now that we've been in government contracting. When people find out that we're a vendor in government contracting, they always ask, like, how long did it take to win a contract? And I'll tell them the truth, and it's several years. And without fail, people will choke on whatever they're eating or spit their drink out. Like, they cannot believe it takes that long. And that's uncompensated time. That's like,
yes.
we're not pulling a paycheck at all during that time. Um, we are working insane hours learning how to do this. But the cool thing is that once we develop those skills, then we're able to replicate it. And it's not for a big company, a corporation that just profits off you basically, military service like yours. It's
Mhm.
it's our own small business that's supporting our nation. So Jeremy, are there any resources that you found particularly useful in your kind of entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, there's a few. First of all, I will say, personal education, And by that, I mean, I got my master's in business administration. That was extremely helpful. And while it wasn't, may or may not have had elements specifically tailored to business or government contracting, it gives you an idea of how business works. It gives you, that economic framework, that legal framework around when it as it pertains to business. Gives you some skills on how to strategize, right? How to price things. And so that's very any kind of business, like again, not people talking about it, but just tried and true methods of basic business is really good. Also, there's some other organizations. One I found specifically helpful was Veteran Institute for Procurement, so BIP. They kind of you hear from people who have done it, who have bootstrapped it. They have built a company from nothing. And this specific group was, all military, all veterans. And it's all different levels, all different kinds of businesses. So just kind of, it's very specific and very regulated industry, specific government contracting. So, I mean, there's a lot out there. You can also just read the regulations. I mean, federal acquisition, regulation. It's you will go if you ever want to fall asleep, have trouble sleeping, just read that thing, but it spells it out, and it is like just by the book. So, I mean, there's lots of things. Any kind of self-development, regulatory, just learn how it works and then try it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for sharing your insights and entrepreneurial experiences today. Your contributions to the world of government and defense are incredibly impactful, and I enjoy being on this journey with you as both your spouse and your business partner. So to our listeners, thank you for tuning into this episode of Tipping Spears with Hannah Becker. We hope this conversation sparked new ideas and challenged the way you think about your future. So don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast, and we'll catch you next time with another exciting guest.
Thank you.